Hello and welcome to this, our very special live event where we are going to be launching our second Kickstarter. Do you want maps? Do you want maps that can fit onto your bookshelf and that you can edit and write on and fold away and not be bothered with once you're done with them? Well, if that's what you want, and I really hope it is, then this is going to be for you. Right, so let's get on with the show. The countdown is ticking to the launch. My name is Guy from How to Be a Great GM. I see so many wonderful familiar faces here to help us count in this project of ours. Now, it is our second Kickstarter, and let me tell you, it's just as nerve-wracking launching this. So I've got a fantastic guest with me tonight. We're going to be talking you through the entire Kickstarter, watching that countdown as we move towards the hour, which is when the Kickstarter will launch. And so let me get him to join you. He is none other than Martin. Martin, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks, Guy. Thanks for having me on.
Hiding the nerves, I would imagine.
Yes. Yeah, it is nerve-wracking. It's my first Kickstarter, so you're an old hand at this.
Yeah, that's what they say, even though I'm shaking like a leaf, a very fat leaf, but a leaf nonetheless. So we're going to go through some stuff now in terms of what you can expect from this Kickstarter, why we did it, where it came from, all that kind of stuff. And more importantly, we're going to be answering your questions. So please, in caps, write the word question in the front of your question regarding the Kickstarter, and we will try to answer it as much as we can. Now, I've got a couple screens set up so we can show you to best effect what you are hopefully going to be asking about and wanting to know about. So yes, let's get in there. Now, I have noticed a lot of people have been asking the question, will there be virtual versions of these? Well, there are actually going to be two virtual versions of these. So there's one which you can download and then you can use in Foundry or in any VTT of your choice for that matter. And then the second one is that you'll be able to access it directly on dungeonfog.com. So if you are a subscriber or if you're a free user, you will be able to go to dungeonfog.com and access these maps as well, which means that you can change them to your heart's content. So if you don't want something to be there, or if you don't want something to be there, you can move it around, and that's it. So I'm going to get that question right out the way straight away because I have seen it coming through quite a lot. So Martin, let's go a little step back and talk about how this project started, because this was your brainchild, wasn't it?
Well, it's pretty much a brainchild of the channel. I was watching a lot of what was being said and live shows and videos you'd done, and just thinking about how we can make a GM's life easier, and what would be the one thing I would want as I'm thinking about running more games when we're able to, is what would I like? And there was a couple of comments on a live show about somebody who was listening in whilst designing the maps for the next session. And people I've spoken to have said that's one of the most time-consuming things, and not necessarily your main maps. I mean, you want to spend a lot of time on your main map, but it's when your players go off in a random direction, as they want to do, having something that's not only, you can make do with pen and paper sometimes, but you perhaps want an immersive map that you can throw out. And after a few conversations and some things we'd chatted about other products that were out there, we fixed on it. We started to form a brief of like, well, what do we need it to be? What's the problems? And having a history in print, I realized that there might be a solution that wasn't out there already. So I began to do some sketches and throw them to you.
Yeah. And that's where I started to get excited, I must admit. So we've got some of these old sketches. Now, I will remind you that these were mock-ups that we were doing at the time. So we were just using anything that we could get our hands on. And so these maps are not, I don't think any of them are actually in the final version. But these are some mock-ups. So here's the first one. This was the very first sketch that you sent through to me and got me to go, this is something that could actually work. This is brilliant. How do we get to the next stage? And then there were a lot of different options that started to get thrown around.
Well, we started to sort of test the idea and and see where we could go with it. As you see there, we've got a rather crazy sort of 8-page throwout that I was thinking about, and that's, we started to ask the questions and see what was physically possible.
Right, right. Because our mandate, and here's the first sort of mock-up that you did that really kind of got us excited, I think, in terms of looking at it, going, could this work, was that it had to be a standard book size. It had to fit onto a bookshelf next to your D&D books, and not be cumbersome, not be weighty, but at the same time, not be too small.
Yeah.
Not just be 2 A4 pages. We wanted it to be bigger than that. So then we started to work on that. We came up with some ideas of extra pages that you could add to increase the size of your map, which we moved away from as well in terms of cost saving. And because we discovered something else which was quite cool about the way these maps were working. And we played around the idea of having a big battle map that we could add, and we said, no, let's not do that. That was one of the concept pages. Actually, you can see in the top there, we were actually thinking that each map should come with a random table generator, in terms of, well, this is a generic tavern, here are a whole bunch of random generators for the tavern. But then logistically, the book was going to be about 3.5 miles thick because there just wasn't room for it all. So then we said, okay, we got the working model, because that was key for us. And then we started designing covers. And you can see there, the very far left, that was the first one that you did, the green one.
Yep. That's the first one that I obviously quite like that one. I do a lot of Photoshop work, but we felt that was more D&D 3.5, and we wanted to be sort of up with the D&D 5e. So we upgraded the style, and that's when a book gets its identity is from the cover. So that was important to us to sort of. And there was nothing wrong with the one on the left, the silver one here, but we just wanted to punch it up and make it something nice to put on your shelf as well.
I must admit, sorry, let's just go back to that green one. I saw the blue one. I'm like, that's it. I'm sold. I'm loving it. And then you sent the black one along, so then it was just down to those two, and we went, that's it. The black and gold is just perfect. It really does pop. It's very, very cool. We also at that stage dropped the idea of doing books for specific locations. So forest and sea, you'll see there on the title. We went, you know what, actually what we're going to do is we're going to make the book much more useful in terms of the first book anyway. This Kickstarter is a journey that players usually go on. So it's a tavern, it's a few town areas, there's some sewers in there. Then we go out into the countryside, and there's some roads and bits of forest as well. And then we move through, and then we start getting the more interesting locations that you might want to throw in. And so that's kind of where we got to. So that was the history of it. Some cool comments coming through. I see also looking at the questions that are coming through. John the Wise says, will there be any maps that can be used for cyberpunk setting and that I could use them on my channel? John runs a great podcast talking about cyberpunk, all things cyberpunk. There are no cyberpunk maps in the book. But having said that, if this system works, because I think the system works really well, and I haven't seen it anywhere else. I've seen the ring binding, I've seen this, and I've seen that, but I haven't actually seen it working anywhere else. So let me show you what we're talking about, because I just realized that I know what it looks like. Martin, you know what it looks like. But perhaps you guys watching don't know what it looks like. So this is my other camera now set up. So I've just got to rotate my chair a little bit. So you can see this is what we call a double spread. So this is what got us really excited. So this is 2 books next to each other. As you can see, I've got the 2 books next to each other. And I've got some figures on there, minifigs. Now the maps are pre-gridded to 1 inch. So the figurines fit exactly onto that 1 inch grid. So it's all good for that. So bear that in mind. Then if I take the figures away, this is the actual functioning of the book. And this is why we got so excited. So this is I'm going to clear out this book actually. So we're just talking about just one book at the moment. Let me get these figures out of the way here. Dealing with just the one book at the moment. Once you finish playing, all you do is you fold the map up, back into the book, pick up the book if you can, and boom, done. And that's it. That's the whole book in a nutshell. This is really, really super simple. And when you want to play a particular map, you just open it out to wherever you want to go. And you know, this, folks, is what we were aiming for. Now, some books, you see, you get that sort of bending bulge sort of thing, and it's not completely flat, and there's an edge to it. So if you sort of put your mini in the wrong place, they sort of at an angle, and they can slide, and you don't really want that. So that's what the ring binding comes in. Now, the ring binding is not a new system, but the ring binding allows us to then fold all the pages of the book, all the pages of the book underneath. So that then this can sit absolutely flat on your table. And I think that's, I'm sure I remember where to put it. So then it does sit absolutely flat. And of course, I didn't bring my marker because I'm an idiot. I knew there was something I was going to forget. So Martin, why don't you, whilst I go looking for a Martin, talk to me about, or talk to us anyway, about the challenge of the printing. So how does the printing actually work?
Well, it's quite a complex. Each individual section is not that difficult. So the ring binding is not difficult. The lamination isn't difficult. The throwouts aren't difficult. I've done all of those as different print projects throughout my my career. But putting them all together is where we started to encounter some of the technical issues. So we have to have the paper thin enough to fold, but the thinner you go, the harder it is to laminate in order to get that throw out. So that was really the test. And I worked with a couple of printers actually, just to get some very early tests, just to see if it was feasible. And then we built that prototype that you're using there to make sure that it worked as we intended to make it work. Because that was very important. There's no point going ahead with it if we still had to figure it out. It works, and I think from seeing it, we now know it's even better than in the theory. Because what we wanted to do was, as you said, put it's compact. It's like you don't have to argue about whose place you're going to play at. You can just put it in your bag with your books and go somewhere. It's light. It's not. You're not going to have to struggle away to take it anywhere. And it really is. I mean, I would like this product. That's one of the reasons why I thought we should go ahead with it, is because I would like to use this. And so many people I talk to, I've got a nephew who plays. It's like, well, all the time I spend 30 minutes drawing a map out. Like, well, here's a map. You've got a campfire. We're going to have there's a bit of road. Make a campfire. If you need a temple, we've got a temple there. So that really was. So the technical stuff came together with what we were trying to achieve really well. And we're still going to, we've still got a couple of little bits to refine. I think it works perfectly. We're going to see if we can get it. The beauty of it is we can put as many maps in it as we want. So we've capacity tested it. We're going to maybe make the paper a little bit thicker and see if we can do that. But there's nothing wrong with it at the moment as it works, and we've got some really good working maps on there.
There we go. Absolutely. Now, I mean, the maps are so to give you a perspective, I design all of the maps in Dungeon Fog. So Dungeon Fog have approved us as this is official merchandise for them. They will be selling this in hard copy when they go to conventions and things next year. They're obviously supporting us in terms of putting it online on their website as well. So we work very closely with Dungeon Fog. If you've watched my YouTube channel, you'll know that. So I'm designing them all. Martin and I have sat together. We've worked out the journey in terms of the maps that we want to include. And at the moment, we start with how many maps? How many maps do we have in the basic book?
24.
That's right. So it's 24 maps that we start with. But as the Kickstarter grows, so we can then add in more maps. Potentially, I mean, I don't know what our maximum would be. Would it be?
The maximum is going to be defined by shipping weight, because we can make the ring bind bigger. We
Yes.
tested it up to, I think we got 32 maps in
Okay.
for a test,
Yes.
and it was fine. But you could put a larger gauge ring bind in, and you could put another 10 maps in.
That's it.
But I think it gets to a point where that starts to become cumbersome. So that's what we want to avoid. And I think we settled that 24 to 30 maps will be a lovely set. And particularly if you're getting 2 books, that gives you lots of options to place maps together and create your own combinations.
Exactly. And I think the other important thing to bear in mind is that the way that we're doing these maps, so I now have my marker and I'll do that demonstration in a little bit, but these books are not complete yet in terms of containing all of the maps. We have not made all of the maps. That is what will happen once Kickstarter is launched. But for example, if you look at this keep map, yes, it's a blacksmith's sort of structure within the keep. But if I move it all the way to the one page of the book, so let me actually just fold this up and I flip it over, there is a perfectly serviceable small encounter map.
Yep.
So yes, you're getting a fixed number of 24 maps or more, depending on if the Kickstarter is successful. But even within that, you've still got territory that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me just show you in terms of the marking. This is a dry erase marker. And so, yes, the whole function was, if you want this to be a set of spikes or something, I'm not an artist, but you can clearly see hopefully you can clearly see that that's a trap. You can sort of make notes and things all over, and then of course you can erase it. Now you see the excitement of finding the marker pen meant that I didn't actually bother to find the cloth, did I? Give me a second here, but this one's easy, he said. Right, so I've got a cloth here, and it's just dry erase, so I take the cloth and then there it is, and it's gone. So that was something that we really wanted to see, was that, and we wanted to make sure that the pages could still fold and then lay flat as well. And that was I think the biggest challenge. So we had lots of mock-ups made to make sure that really happened. And to give you a sort of a sense of some of the maps that are in there. Now when the Kickstarter launches in about 11 minutes, we've got castle maps. We've got this, I'm not sure if it'll be in this final version. This is a big bridge running over the corpse of a dragon here in the distance. You can sort of see a dragon in there. I apologize about the shininess of the lights, but that's because, well,
that's
the maps are
lamination.
limited. Yeah, exactly. So you've got bridges. I know we've got a big ship in there as well. So again, if you look at it here, you've got one map already, which is just a sort of a mock-up. We would have more detailing in here, but then you have a full-length ship as well, if you so wanted to have a proper big sailing ship in there. Now we did not add in let me rephrase. We have populated the maps with certain props, like barrels or a coil of rope here or there, or playing cards, just to make it look like it's alive. But we didn't want it to be either empty, which some people do, and then they require you to fill in the props, because again, that's kind of defeating the point. At the same time, though, we said, well, we want to have lots of clear playing space. So we've tried to go for a balance where the maps are not too busy and they're also not too empty, if that makes sense. So there's personality to them from that perspective. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go to some questions quickly because I have seen some come through. Minor League Gaming says, is it only grid or are hex options available? So the books themselves are grid only. But because we are being hosted on Dungeon Fog as well, if you go into Dungeon Fog, you will get access to these maps if you are if you back the Kickstarter, you'll get access to these maps, and then you can change it to hex, you can change it to dotted line, you can remove the grid altogether. You can really just go mad and do whatever you like, basically. So that is that. Landon says, are there 2 different books? Is it only just one book? It is only one book, but there is an option on the Kickstarter where you can buy 2 copies. And what that allows you to do is then put them together and have bigger maps and to assemble your own maps. So, for example, I can tell you that in the city buildings, we've got a dockyard, we've got a tavern. Do we have a shop in there as well, I think?
I think we've got one listed, yes.
Yeah. So those 3, they're not designed to work together necessarily. But if you have 2 books, you can put them together, and then your PCs can walk from the shop into the dockyard. And then you could put, if you really wanted to, a 3rd book would have the ship map on it, which you could then line up with the dock. And then that would allow them to get onto the ship. So you could potentially build these really big maps. But one of our main goals was that if you don't have a lot of space, this is how you can utilize it to maximum efficiency, basically, without losing anything there. So let's see, next question that I'm looking for, and if I miss your question, please ask it again, because there are quite a lot coming through. Are the ships and stuff based on historical models, asks Good Instrument. No, that is absolutely, they are definitely not based on historical models, for the very simple reason that we want space. We actually want our PCs to be able to move around on those ships. So there's a space question. Smaller ships are really small, and when you start packing them full of props and objects and things, they become even smaller. So we said no. These are fantasy maps, so they are fantasy dimensions as well. Especially if you look at the castles and the taverns and that sort of thing. If you wander around medieval Europe, you walk into an old-fashioned tavern and you're like, it's so small. Well, yes. So we've gone for Hollywood-style map size, I suppose would be the right term.
Usable. Yeah.
Usable. Yes. Usable. actually usable. Yes. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Another question here is from Eric Him Level 2. Depending on how the Kickstarter goes and the books sell after, do you intend on expanding to new books with new maps? Martin?
Very much so. We've had to restrain ourselves in terms of the scope of what we think we can achieve with this. We want to, and this is why we decided on doing the adventure first, because it's the most useful for everybody. It will be useful to every GM out there for 1 or 2 of the maps. We don't want to tempt fate. We're hoping that if we fund, this becomes a product where we could, as Landon said, if we do a 2nd book, a 2nd volume, you've then got extra options there to work them together, and we start building up different biomes, different types of map. Guys talked about some really interesting tower maps, all different levels on each different page. And we can expand out on maps we've done, so we can have different levels of ships. I've been banging on about I'd like to do an entire fighting pit book, but that's just because I'm a bloodthirsty person. But there is a lot of scope, so if we do get the backing and the community embraces the idea, we'll look to expand it out there.
They are. AK Writer asked the question, is there planned to be also a section with advice on map making in Dungeon Fog, a basic how-to or tools like spell cones? I'm not sure on that one. In terms of a tutorial section on map making in Dungeon Fog, if a lot of people want that, in terms of how do they take these maps and then adjust them in Dungeon Fog, what are the possibilities? We certainly can do that. We'll ask people once the Kickstarter's live what it is that they're looking for. We've got just 4 minutes to go before we go live. We've got lots of questions to go through as well, but I think I'm more interested in what people are asking than what we had planned to talk about. Martin, you with me there? Michael Marmoleo asks, will there be some maps usable for a Star Wars setting? I'm going to use marketing jargon here and say, well, yes, provided that your Star Wars setting is in a forest. The Jedi Temple might have some dragon tokens in it, but those are Cryat dragons from the Dune Sea. No, so the absolute honest answer is that this is a fantasy collection of maps. So there are certainly going to be, I know there's a road. I know that there is, I know it sounds weird that I'm saying I know that there's a road, but there's 24 maps in there. I can't remember them all off the top of my head. Thinking about stuff that you might use for Star Wars is yes, there's forest, there's caves, those kind of things definitely will be there, or they are in there. The full list will be on the Kickstarter page.
I mean, if there's demand for it in the future, then we'll certainly look at things. But I think for now, this is the thing we want to get out there and working.
Exactly. Cobalt Scorpio says, how do we get a signed copy? Well, based on what we had in the last request for our Kickstarter Complete Guide to Nautical Campaigns, people wanted a signed copy. So it is, I believe, a tier in the Kickstarter. Martin, is that right?
It is indeed. There's two. You can get a pair of signed books, or you can get the single signed book. And that's got a limited edition blood red cover that we're doing that one with. So you'll get a special cover and you'll get it signed by the both of us.
There you go. How are we doing? 2 minutes to go. Rourke Griffin says, what is the Kickstarter starting level cost? So there's an early bird, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Other than the digital packs are they're lower. I think they're £10 and £20, but you can get the early bird right now at £30. That will save you. Let's get my maths. So yeah, £30 will save you 30% on the final cost of the book when we sell it in the shop. And there's a limited number of those available. So if you like the idea, and you want to grab yourself, the early bird deal, go get that, and make sure you've grabbed that while it's still there.
Yeah. Now, I do want to point out these books are hand bound. Is that right?
Yeah. Each of the individual processes are machine processes, but we've had to bring them together. There's not somewhere you can go and say, I want this, and give them files and it gets back to you. So each of the processes are done at the printers. One of them is sent out, and then it's actually run through a hand binder. They're machine assisted, but there's people running them through because that's the only way we could get it to work. So yeah, and it's also hand organized. It's not just done by a computer. You've got to know what this is doing and understand the pages to make sure they're not backwards and in the wrong way and stuff like that.
All right, it is time. So I'm going to go here. This is where we press the launch button and hopefully things will work. So I'm not going to do any big speeches or anything because we've got lots of questions still to go through. Martin, do you want to say press?
Press the button.
There we go. Okay, I've read the details. Right, yes, fine, whatever. If we're not reading the small print, who cares? Launch now. Okay, and hopefully that will launch. It won't come up with a giant error. There we go. We are now live. So that is a relief because you never know. I mean, when you launch these things, sometimes they go, oh, you forgot to add in stuff. So there we are. Now, our goal is just under, what is that, about under $10,000?
Yeah.
Is that achievable? I mean, in terms of if we get $10,000, will people get their books?
Yes, it's we've worked out a whole grading of pricing and what we can do. I think for us, in terms of shipping down the line, the more we sell, the better we can get deals on shipping and things like that. But that's what we're hoping for. We've gone we just want to make this a product. We really want to make this work. Obviously, we're hoping that we can beat some of the stretch goals, so we can add more maps in, and make it the product we want it to be. I think at the moment I'd be very happy with receiving it as a 24-page or 24 map book. But as we've seen, when you put the 30 maps together, or 28, 30, it really becomes a nice volume of interesting combinations and maps.
Absolutely. Okay, right. Let's see. Any more questions that have come through? Again, Good Instrument asks, is the architecture and environments mostly European fantasy, or will there be Arabian Nights buildings and deserts, for example? From the way that we've designed it, and now I can actually go and look at the list of battle maps that we've got because it's on the Kickstarter page. But from the way that we've designed it, there are certainly, I know there's a temple that we have in there, which is a yellow sandstone in a sort of a palm-like oases. So that certainly would work in an Arabian setting. But generally speaking, you are looking at, there is some jungle, so dense jungle, which is definitely not sort of what you encounter generally in Europe. Yeah, I'm just looking at the list again here. Most of it, though, is traditional European medieval fantasy, I would say.
I think very much like an adventure campaign itself, where we're starting at the beginning. We're where are your characters, in your level 1 to 5, in your towns that you're going to come back to a lot. And then if we make this a product, as I said before, we can perhaps push out different biomes. I mean, look, we would love to do a desert, an entire desert issue, an entire snowbound issue. Hoth, you could use that for Hoth. Yeah. And you could use the desert one for Tatooine. So, there are options out there, but we really had to make a decision about what is really useful to a lot of people out there. And the taverns were that solution. So,
absolutely. AK Writer asked the question, what exactly is the difference between the £30 early bird package and the £35 version? The difference is £5, I believe.
Yes.
And that's not in weight, that's in saving. So it is literally just a saving that we're sending on to people to get in there and back it. So Caleb Eaton asked the question, are there any customization options which keeps the maps fresh? Wet dry erase paper or tokens? So yes, let me go back to the top-down view. And certainly you can, with a dry erase marker, you can add on details however you like. You can certainly say, well, the ballista has been destroyed and is no longer working. It's on fire. It's doing whatever it needs to do. So this is damage to the actual deck plating itself. So that's a hole now. You can go mad. You can say, well, there's merfolk sort of swimming around in the ocean. I mean, oh dear. This is why we made the map, folks, so you don't have to spend hours drawing. That's a mermaid, apparently. And so
as we've created this with Dungeon Fog, you can go into Dungeon Fog and print out bits and pieces if you want to, put your own tokens or bits on there, and it will take a stick.
That's it. Absolutely agree. Yes. So let's see more questions. There's a good one here. Yeah, Eric. Maybe I'll share this picture with you if you haven't gone to the Kickstarter page yet. This was something that Martin and I did. Martin is the photographer. The photographs are all his doing. And we needed a picture of people. You always need in a Kickstarter. You always need that picture of 3 idiots sitting around a table, always looking like they're enjoying themselves. It's the pack shot that advertising has used for decades. That's one of the maps, by the way. It's this road with these giant footprints through it, which is quite fun. And we're like, well, COVID is happening, so we can't actually get 3 people to sit that close because it's not a big table, folks. So we went, well, someone likes dressing up. Don't know who that is. Let's just do it that way. So I can only imagine what chaos that game would be. It would be awful. It was all three of them trying to run the story. It would be.
I feel for the guy on the left. That's
yeah.
He's really not having a good day, is he?
No, definitely not. So there we go. Now Landon asks, are there plans for any vinyl or static cling stickers with other props? Martin, I've cut you out. Martin, what are your thoughts on that?
As I just said, we did test some, and we've looked into it, and it is possible, but we wanted to make. We might, if this is successful, we might approach people who've purchased it and purchased the book with a smaller Kickstarter to do that and to make those available. But what we were looking at was, with the printer we're using, they couldn't get exactly what we wanted. So it would have to come from another source, perhaps, or we'd have to do more testing. And again, packaging, we want to send you a book. We had plans to put a pocket in the back and to put some, at one point we had we were going to put a complete role-playing system in there with adventures and stuff, but we want you to get this in one piece as well. So it's definitely something we're interested in, and definitely something that would link up well with Dungeon Fog using the asset packs that they've got. But at the moment we thought, let's just get this product done, and we can look at that next and see if it works. But there's quite a lot going on these maps. There's a nice balance between assets that are already in there and space to play on. And as I said, you can, that is something we could look at down in the future.
Correct. That and those sticky stickers, I must admit that sometimes they're nice, but again, it's about the speed of play so that you're not slowing down whilst you page through 600 pages worth of stickers, to find stuff. So I'm just trying to find an example here of, let me just set this up properly. Let me cut there so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. All right. So this is that road map with those giant feet in it. I mean, it's just a bit of fun, really. But I wanted to show you this map. So this is the temple map that we designed, and I'm just going to fold that under there. So again, here you have, there you have, if you're just using this page, you've got two guard towers sitting over a road, so that's quite useful. But then you open it up and suddenly you've got this giant, has my camera moved? My goodness, it feels like I'm reaching all the way across the desk here. And then suddenly you've got this temple. So we've got some detailing in there, but we thought, well, we want to have lots of space for a combat to take place in. So that's why we sort of left this open.
Yeah, once you get a few minis in there, it starts to, it fills up and you've got a lot going on. And as you said, it's about setup time, and it's about cluttering the area up, and you want to focus on the combat. But like I say, nothing to say that we wouldn't in the future. But for now, we felt this was enough of a thing to ship and package and get right. So
there we go. That's it. Absolutely. Okay, so I think we are pretty much done, I have to say, in terms of this launch. We were just here to do the countdown. We've already got 37 backers. That's absolutely amazing, folks. We're a seventh of the way to the backing. We're at $1,400 now of the 7,000, £1,400 of the £7,800. So thank you all for watching. I mean, that's been absolutely fantastic. Now, I did say that there was going to be a giveaway. Now, the giveaway will be a copy of either a complete guide to nautical campaigns or a complete guide to epic campaigns. And all you need to do is you just need to answer this simple question. So if you already have a copy of those, then I'm awfully sorry, but I'm awfully grateful that you have already supported us in the past. If you don't have a copy of either of those, you can ask me. Well, I'm going to ask a question, you give me the answer, and the first person to answer correctly will be the one who gets that PDF, and they can just tell me in chat which one they want, and they just need to send me an email as well after the show. So the question is, what is the name of our product? What is its name? There's a hint I don't know what Martin's looking at or not looking at. So if you want a copy of a complete guide to nautical campaigns or a complete guide to epic campaigns as a PDF, jump in and well, there we go. Look, everybody's jumping in. There we go. Landon got there first, then Lance Moore, then Draco Vale, then White Tiger, then Dungeon Fog. Oh my goodness, everybody got it. I wish I could be like Oprah and say, you get a copy, you get a look under your seats, you all got copies. I really wish I could, but I think a lot of you have already got copies. So Landon, I know you've definitely got nautical campaigns, but you got in there first. That was the criterion. You did get in there first, and so yes, I think it's going to go to you. Thank you for everyone else who jumped in there, and so there we are. So Landon, you're going to get a copy of the complete guide to epic campaigns. And yeah, just drop me a mail, Landon. You've got my email, I think, but just in case you don't, I'm dropping it into chat now, so you can all spam me. I
liked Eldritch Battle Maps. That was good from someone.
Yeah, Eldritch Battle Maps. Elric, I don't even know what that was. Yeah, Eldritch Battle Axe. Anyway. Adam McArdle says that he beat Landon. Interesting. Look, I am using Restream for my chat, so let's see. You know what? In the spirit of the season, Adam McArdle, send me a email as well, and I'll give you a copy. There you are. Because we don't want any fighting going on. And there we go. AK Writer, hashtag Landon shot first. Well, you know what? Maybe you both missed, in which case you both win. So, yes, send me an email. My email address is there, and we can go through that. So there we are. I'm seeing both chats at the same time, by the way, folks. Anyway, Martin, thanks so much for joining me and talking a little bit about our Kickstarter. And yes, hopefully we'll be able to update you guys as it goes along. That number just ticking up. Now we're at 42 backers, which is fantastic. So thank you for that, folks. And yes, we'll be giving you more updates. If you are a backer of a Kickstarter, you can expect to see updates starting to come through regularly as the project progresses. And for the rest of you, I can only say thank you for watching, for being part of it, for participating, for asking your questions. And until next time, I wish you and yours the very happiest of gaming.